Not a dime. The same bag had my $40 in emergency funds. Not a phone. In order to restrict screen time while on vacation, my mother had confiscated it before to the trip. Even my mother's phone number was unfamiliar to me. I used my contacts list just like most teenagers. Maybe I could have told you that her number began with a 6, but nothing else. A worker at the airline offered to try calling her on my behalf. From the booking records, they found her number and dialed. It ended up in voicemail. She'd put her phone on airplane mode like a responsible passenger. I saw the irony. Security continued to inquire. What was my hometown? My parents were where? Did I have any family in the United Arab Emirates? Could I get in touch with anyone I knew? I didn't know the answers. Just tears, anxiety, and the increasing awareness that I was totally alone at one of the biggest airports in the world, halfway from home. While they considered what to do with me, they took me to a little security office. I was given water and tissues by a nice woman, but I could sense the worry on her face. I was an issue, a global catastrophe in waiting. I spent what seemed like hours sitting in that office, but it was really just 45 minutes. My thoughts continued to race, returning to the same queries. Why would Spencer act in this way? Why wouldn't my mother come see how I was doing? How come no one came to find me? Then, without warning, his voice resounded in my mind. The trust account. She is unable to learn. Spencer would turn 18 in 3 months after I did. I had no prior knowledge about trust funds. My mother just mentioned that we were comfortable and that she worked hard to keep us that way. She never discussed my father's financial situation. Spencer, however, was aware of something. He had been concealing something. And now, 3 weeks before he could access our father's land, he had left me stuck in Dubai. It wasn't a joke. This wasn't a bad case of sibling rivalry. There was more going on here. And I was beginning to understand just how dangerous I was. When security eventually ran out of questions, they let me back into the airport and gave me vague orders to wait close to the main concourse while they got in touch with the embassy. I roamed aimlessly till I came upon a place close to a cafe and slipped down to sit on the chilly marble floor. At that moment, the tears came quickly and fiercely. I made an effort to keep quiet and muffle them with my hands, but I was unable to do so. I observe families passing past. Children are safe, giggling and holding their parents' hands. When a 5-year-old girl dropped her stuffed animal, her father picked it up right away, gave it back to her and kissed the top of her head. Such a little gesture, such a typical gesture. I couldn't remember the last time my mother had touched me with that kind of tenderness. Perhaps Spencer was correct. Perhaps I was unlovable. Perhaps I was just a mistake, a burden, and someone the family would be better off without. My self-pity was pierced by the loud rumble of my stomach. At least 8 hours had passed since my last meal. It seemed like a lifetime ago that I had last eaten a stale aeroplane croissant somewhere over Europe. I glanced around at the shiny Gucci, Prada, and Chanel stores. I was seated on the floor with precisely 0 and 0 while the airport was brimming with luxury. I was on the verge of laughing at the irony. Nearly. If this were a movie, I wondered what I would do. The tenacious heroine in a film would figure out a cunning way out. She would find a secret talent, make friends with a security guard, or at the very least have some basic survival skills. Making microwave ramen and occasionally remembering to do my washing were my survival skills. I was destined to fail. The minutes passed. I tried to blend in by pressing my back against the chilly wall. I had tried to blend in with my family my entire life. I now wanted I could be seen by someone who genuinely cared. And then a shadow passed over me just when I felt like I had reached my lowest point. I raised my head. There was a tall man, perhaps in their mid-50s, with friendly black eyes, a gray beard neatly maintained, and an attractive classic white outfit. He didn't look at me with sympathy or condemnation. Instead, he appeared to be a powerful person who most likely owned a number of those upscale shops that I couldn't afford to visit. He was genuinely concerned as he gazed at me. "Young lady," he said with a clear but accented English, "you appear to be in need of assistance, and I think I know just how to provide it." My body's instincts all cried out for danger. Alone, stranger, distant nation. My mother had often warned me about this very scenario. Avoid conversing with strangers. I was amazed and fatigued when we arrived in Dubai. That airport was amazing, resembling a marble and glass palace. The illumination in the lavatory I used was superior to that of my entire school. There were restaurants that looked like they belonged in a magazine, as well as designer shops and gold shops. I felt like a peasant who had walked into a royal court as I strolled about with my mouth hanging wide. My wardrobe selections didn't help. I had on jeans that were a little too long because I had purchased them on discount, my favorite oversized band t-shirt, and a rock group that I almost ever listened to anymore. I looked precisely like the 14-year-old Arizona girl who didn't know what she was doing. During our layover, Spencer proposed that we divide up to explore the terminal. I could go check out the bookshop, he added, while he took Mom to see the Gold Souk area. In fact, I was pleased about it. My family rarely had peace, so I wanted to relish the time I had to myself. Spencer offered to hold my rucksack before I went. You don't want to carry that around all the time. I'll protect it. That rucksack had my passport, boarding pass, emergency cash and $40 that my grandma had given me prior to the journey. Without thinking, I gave it to him. How come I wouldn't trust my brother? I hope I could return to that time. I wish I could take the girl by the shoulders and tell her to cling to her bag as if her life depended on it. Because it did, in a sense. After using the loo and perusing the bookshop for around 15 minutes, I returned to our meeting location close to Gate 23. My mother and Spencer had left. I waited for 30 to 45 minutes. I told myself they'd gotten distracted shopping, lost track of time, but a sick feeling was growing in my stomach. When I eventually located an information desk, I inquired about our flight to Bangkok. After entering something into her computer, the woman behind the desk gave me a worried expression. Dear, that aeroplane has already taken off. It's currently taxiing to the runway. No, my family is traveling on that aircraft. I'm supposed to be on that flight. She double-checked. Underwood, Patricia, boarded. Underwood, Spencer, boarded. Underwood, Molly. Not present. My heart stopped. My vision became fuzzy. Before the words truly entered my mind, I believe I asked her to repeat them 3 times. They departed from me. Without me, my mother and brother boarded that aircraft and traveled to Thailand. I had no notion that in less than 2 hours, I would find out the precise reason as I remained there motionless. Before we go any further, if you are enjoying this story, please subscribe and let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is. I read each and every comment and it means a great deal to me. I appreciate your help. Let's get back to the story. I was motionless as I stood at that information desk. The woman behind the desk was speaking, but her voice sounded like it was coming through water. She asked whether I was okay and if she could contact anyone. Everything seemed far away and surreal. My relatives had abandoned me. Without her 14-year-old daughter, my own mother boarded an aircraft and took off. I was approached by a security guard who requested my passport. I don't have it, I said. My brother has it. Your pass for boarding. He also possesses that. The woman behind the desk and the police looked at each other. They were calculating and I could see it. Unaccompanied minor, no family, no documentation, no justification. It was much later that I discovered exactly what Spencer had done. He went directly to the gate when I used the loo. He informed the airline employees that since we had purchased individual tickets rather than a family package, I was traveling with other family members on a later flight. Some people used the lottery at my mother's job. No warning signs were present. After verifying his and my mother's names, the gatekeeper allowed them to board. However, he had already spoken to my mother. He informed her that I had had a huge outburst in the loo. He claimed that I had been conversing online with a boy I had met online and that I was looking for him in Dubai. I screamed at him, he said. Claimed that I detested the family and desired to be left alone indefinitely. My mother accepted Spencer at his word because she was worn out, anxious, and conditioned to believe whatever he said for years. She didn't come in search of me. She didn't ask to talk to me directly. Tight-lipped and enraged, She simply nodded and trailed Spencer on board that aircraft. She believed she was imparting lessons to me about appreciation, being modest, and understanding my role. She was unaware that her son's dishonesty had left her daughter stranded abroad. However, I was unaware of all of that at the time. I just knew that I was all by myself. Not a passport. It was taken from my rucksack by Spencer. Not a dime. The same bag had my $40 in emergency funds. Not a phone. In order to restrict screen time while on vacation, my mother had confiscated it before to the trip. Even my mother's phone number was unfamiliar to me. I used my contacts list just like most teenagers. Maybe I could have told you that her number began with a 6, but nothing else. A worker at the airline offered to try calling her on my behalf. From the booking records, they found her number and dialed. It ended up in voicemail. She'd put her phone on airplane mode like a responsible passenger. I saw the irony. Security continued to inquire. What was my hometown? My parents were where? Did I have any family in the United Arab Emirates? Could I get in touch with anyone I knew? I didn't know the answers. Just tears, anxiety, and the increasing awareness that I was totally alone at one of the biggest airports in the world, halfway from home. While they considered what to do with me, they took me to a little security office. I was given water and tissues by a nice woman, but I could sense the worry on her face. I was an issue, a global catastrophe in waiting. I spent what seemed like hours sitting in that office, but it was really just 45 minutes. My thoughts continued to race, returning to the same queries. Why would Spencer act in this way? Why wouldn't my mother come see how I was doing? How come no one came to find me? Then, without warning, his voice resounded in my mind. The trust account. She is unable to learn. Spencer would turn 18 in 3 months after I did. I had no prior knowledge about trust funds. My mother just mentioned that we were comfortable and that she worked hard to keep us that way. She never discussed my father's financial situation. Spencer, however, was aware of something. He had been concealing something. And now, 3 weeks before he could access our father's land, he had left me stuck in Dubai. It wasn't a joke. This wasn't a bad case of sibling rivalry. There was more going on here. And I was beginning to understand just how dangerous I was. When security eventually ran out of questions, they let me back into the airport and gave me vague orders to wait close to the main concourse while they got in touch with the embassy. I roamed aimlessly till I came upon a place close to a cafe and slipped down to sit on the chilly marble floor. At that moment, the tears came quickly and fiercely. I made an effort to keep quiet and muffle them with my hands, but I was unable to do so. I observe families passing past. Children are safe, giggling and holding their parents' hands. When a 5-year-old girl dropped her stuffed animal, her father picked it up right away, gave it back to her, and kissed the top of her head. Such a little gesture, such a typical gesture. I couldn't remember the last time my mother had touched me with that kind of tenderness. Perhaps Spencer was correct. Perhaps I was unlovable. Perhaps I was just a mistake, a burden, and someone the family would be better off without. My self-pity was pierced by the loud rumble of my stomach. At least 8 hours had passed since my last meal. It seemed like a lifetime ago that I had last eaten a stale aeroplane croissant somewhere over Europe. I glanced around at the shiny Gucci, Prada, and Chanel stores. I was seated on the floor with precisely 0 and 0 while the airport was brimming with luxury. I was on the verge of laughing at the irony. Nearly. If this were a movie, I wondered what I would do. The tenacious heroine in a film would figure out a cunning way out. She would find a secret talent, make friends with a security guard, or at the very least have some basic survival skills. Making microwave ramen and occasionally remembering to do my washing were my survival skills. I was destined to fail. The minutes passed. I tried to blend in by pressing my back against the chilly wall. I had tried to blend in with my family my entire life. I now wanted I could be seen by someone who genuinely cared. And then a shadow passed over me just when I felt like I had reached my lowest point. I raised my head. There was a tall man, perhaps in their mid-50s, with friendly black eyes, a gray beard neatly maintained, and an attractive classic white outfit. He didn't look at me with sympathy or condemnation. Instead, he appeared to be a powerful person who most likely owned a number of those upscale shops that I couldn't afford to visit. He was genuinely concerned as he gazed at me. "Young lady," he said with a clear but accented English, "you appear to be in need of assistance, and I think I know just how to provide it." My body's instincts all cried out for danger. Alone, stranger, distant nation. My mother had often warned me about this very scenario. Avoid conversing with strangers. Never put your trust in strangers. There are many people in the world that wish to harm you. However, as my mother had just dropped me off at the airport, her advice didn't seem very trustworthy at the time. The dude didn't get too close. He took a seat on a nearby bench, keeping a polite distance from me. Not too close, not too far. Like he wanted to give me space because he knew I was afraid. "My name is Khaled Al-Rashid," he stated coolly. "I work here at the airport. The director of guest relations is myself." He took a moment to process that. "From across the terminal I saw you. You made me think of someone." I used the back of my palm to wipe my eyes. "Ooh, my daughter." He spoke softly. 5 years ago she passed away. She was 15. She looked exactly like you do now, as if she was making a great effort to blend in and hope that no one would see how hurt she was. I had no idea how to respond to that. I was surprised by how honest it was. Predators did not say this. This was not like anything else. I muttered, "I'm sorry." He bowed his head. "I'm grateful." Fatima was her name. She was born with a cardiac problem. Even though we knew she wouldn't survive long, losing her was still difficult. His steady, compassionate gaze was fixed on me. "Will you now explain why you are sobbing while sitting on the floor of my airport?" I trusted him because of the way he said, "My airport, not possessive but protective." I began speaking in defiance of all the warnings I had ever received. I told him everything about Spencer, including the lie he told my mother, how she believed him right away and didn't question it, and how I was marked as a no-show as my family traveled to Thailand without me. I informed him that he had no money, no phone, no passport, and no way to get in touch with anyone. I told him about the trust fund that I had heard Spencer discussing, explaining that although I didn't fully grasp its significance, I knew it was crucial. Without interjecting, Khaled listened. He didn't appear astonished, but his expression became more serious with each detail. He appeared to be a man who had seen a lot in his lengthy career and could identify the shape of what he was currently witnessing. He was silent for a while after I was done. "What happened to you?" "It's not just cruel," he answered softly. "Might be illegal. Under international law, it is a serious offense to abandon a juvenile in an international airport, especially when identity documents are intentionally stolen." My heart skipped a beat. "A criminal? Really serious?" He gave a nod. "Above all, though, you are a child in need of assistance, and I will provide it." He got to his feet and held out his hand. "Jamie, they will regret this, I promise." Pause. I could still hear all the alarm bells in my head. However, I had a gut feeling that this man was secure. Perhaps it was the way he described his daughter. Perhaps it was because he hadn't approached me too closely or attempted to touch me. Perhaps I was just in a desperate situation. I grasped his hand. As we strolled, he said first, "We must get you fed and safe. When was the last time you ate?" "I'm not sure. 8 hours. 10. He let out a sound of displeasure. "That won't work. Come on." I had no idea there were corridors like the ones Khaled showed me. Behind-the-scenes passageways, administrative offices, and staff-only sections that linked the shiny public airport to a world of silent efficiency. Along the way, he introduced himself to security personnel, who respectfully nodded and moved aside. I came to see that although Khaled didn't personally have the power to start a major international inquiry, he knew exactly who to contact and how to expedite the process. He was on my side, respected and connected. We found ourselves in an administrative office with cozy chairs and soothing lighting. While Khaled was making phone calls in the adjacent room, I sat with Aisha, a kind-faced woman who could be in her 40s. "Habib, you're safe now. As she handed me a plate of food from the staff cafeteria, Aisha spoke. Warm bread, rice, veggies, and chicken. You're safe here no matter what occurred. I ate as if I had never seen food before. It was more of a dinner than a sandwich. That chicken sandwich was the most delicious dish I had ever eaten. The best seasoning is, in fact, hunger. I could hear Khalid on the phone as I was eating. The walls seemed thinner as he spoke in a composed yet authoritative tone. This is Al-Rashid, the director. The security footage from gates 20 through 25 is what I need. Timestamp. 1430 to 600. Yes, right away. One of our children was purposefully left behind. A family member stole her paperwork. I gave up chewing. Purposefully left behind. It didn't feel real until I heard someone else say it. I wasn't just abandoned by my brother. It was something he had planned. I saw the evidence an hour later. The security footage was taken by Khalid's co-workers. They discovered the precise moment. As I made my way to the loo, Spencer unzipped my backpack. With a faint, purposeful smile, I reached inside and took out my boarding pass and passport. After putting them in his own bag and zipping it up, he left as if nothing had happened. I was then shown video taken from the gate. My mother's face twisted with rage as Spencer whispered to her. With her lips clenched, she nodded and turned to face the jet bridge. She never once turned around. Spencer trailed behind her, glancing back at the terminal before vanishing through the door. He was grinning. The video was like a blow to the chest. Even though I knew in my head that they had abandoned me, witnessing it, Spencer's smile, and my mother's total lack of doubt crushed my heart. Khalid sat down across from me and remarked, "This is very clear evidence. There isn't any doubt. Your brother purposefully kept you apart from your family after stealing your travel paperwork. Your mum didn't check his account. Abandonment is what this is." Numbly I nodded. He went on, "I have a question for you now. A trust fund was mentioned. Your sibling was worried about money. Are you familiar with the estate of your father?" Gave a headshake. My mother never discussed it. "Dad left enough for us to be comfortable," she simply stated. That must have meant the house and other things. Khalid remained silent for a while. "Sometimes," he replied cautiously, "siblings do horrible things to protect what they think is their own. Parents occasionally leave behind more than just homes and furnishings. Additionally, those secrets can occasionally be used as weapons." Spencer and the phone call I had overheard crossed my mind. Once I become 18, she won't be able to find out. "In 3 months my brother will turn 18, I said softly. He was referring to a trust money that he would be able to access upon turning 18. Khalid gave a nod. "When you get back home, you should examine your father's records, make inquiries, and discover what he left behind and for whom. Do you believe that this has to do with money?" "I think people show their true selves when they think no one is watching," he remarked softly. "Your brother has disclosed his. What you will do with that information is the question at hand." Had no response. At the age of 14, I was sitting in an office thousands of miles away from home, fatigued and heartbroken. What might I do? However, a tiny flame of rage was beginning to flare up within of me. Anger, confusion, and sadness are no longer enough. I used to be referred to as my father's hidden gem. I never got what he was trying to say. From what is it hidden? He is currently sitting in that airport office, watching me with a steady, college-like gaze. I was beginning to get it. My dad had noticed something. He had somehow sensed that I would require protection from my own family, and had made every effort to provide it. I simply hadn't discovered it yet. The phone rang on Khalid's end. After responding and speaking quickly in Arabic, he turned to face me with a different look. "The flight to Bangkok is still in the air," he stated. "They will arrive in about 90 minutes. I have made contact with both the U.S. consulate in Dubai and the Thai authorities. Your brother and mother will be greeted by cops when the plane lands." My stomach fell. The police. Abandonment of children is a criminal offense. Document theft combined with international child abandonment is considerably more dangerous. He hesitated. Now Molly, you have an option. You can move on from this. You may pretend this never occurred if we make arrangements for you to just take a plane home. Or he gave you a small smile, or you can see justice being served. And believe me when I say that they will come to regret their actions. The image of my mother's face on the security tape came to me. The manner she didn't even think twice. The way she avoided turning around. Spencer's smile crossed my mind. I said, I want to watch. Collie grabbed the phone and dialed. Despite the calmness of his speech, there was an electricity in it that energized the room. Director Al-Rashid is this person. Please get in touch with the U.S. Embassy and the International Police Coordination Office as a way. We have a verified instance of an American family abandoning a child. Right now, the mother and brother are traveling to Bangkok on Emirates Flight 384. When that jet lands, I want the authorities to be waiting. They are not allowed to depart from the airport. He gave me a comforting little smile. Let's now discuss justice, young woman. Here's a little moment. Please hit the like button and forward this story to someone who enjoys a good karma story if it's keeping you on the tip of your seat. In addition to helping these tales reach more people in need, your support means the world to me. Let's get back to the story. The next 90 minutes were the longest I've ever experienced. Khalid's network worked quickly. Several agencies became interested in my case within 30 minutes of his phone calls. Authority security at Dubai Airport has certified timestamps on all of the documentation. As a stranded American kid with stolen documents, the U.S. Embassy in Dubai created an emergency case file for me. After being informed, Thai authorities started working with police at Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok. An alert regarding the circumstances on board aircraft 384 was sent to Emirates Airlines. Everything was being captured on camera. Witness accounts, timeline reconstruction, security footage, and a paper trail that cannot be refuted or explained away. A representative of the embassy, Ms. Patterson, a woman with kind eyes and a straightforward voice, called to talk to me. She described my mother's situation. A major international incident occurs when a minor is abandoned abroad. According to her, your mother may be the subject of investigations in Thailand and the United Arab Emirates. Even though your brother is still underage at 17, his behavior will be closely examined because he is almost 18. He might be charged with document theft and child endangerment, depending on Arizona juvenile law. I listened for a few days. Accusations, inquiry, and global incident. These weren't words from my real life. They were from courtroom dramas. Miss Patterson went on. The evidence is clear. Your brother is seen purposefully deleting your paperwork in security camera. This is clear-cut. How you wish to move forward is now the question. How I wanted to go. As if I knew anything. While eating my second dish of chicken and rice in an airport office at the age of 14, I was attempting to come to terms with the knowledge that my family had committed a crime against me. I still had a part of me that wanted to keep my mum safe. It takes several hours for 17 years of conditioning to vanish. Perhaps she didn't know, I kept thinking. Perhaps Spencer had utterly deceived her. She could apologize and things would return to normal if I simply explained. However, I was reminded of the security tape and how she didn't hesitate or turn around. And I thought of all the years that had passed before now. Every time she chose Spencer's side without hesitation and trusted him over me. Every time I tried to let her know that something wasn't right, she dismissed me. This was not an isolated incident. This was the result of a trend that had been developing throughout my life. I simply couldn't perceive her love properly because I was too young and desperate. That tiny flame of anger I had sensed earlier was intensifying. Cold and stable, rather than heated and frantic. Anger that doesn't burn out too soon. Something else occurred while I awaited word from Bangkok. Something that altered everything. Spencer's phone was seized as evidence by Thai authorities once the plane landed, and they arrested him and my mother. Standard operating procedure for every minor-related investigation. And they discovered exactly what Khaled had suspected when they looked into his messages. 3 weeks prior to our vacation, he sent texts to Brittany, his girlfriend. Spencer hadn't made a snap decision. This was something he had been preparing for about a month. "The trip is perfect," one text said. "Mom will have to choose a side after I get rid of her in Dubai. She always picks me. I can persuade Mom about the money after Molly is out of the picture. She has total faith in me." And the most damaging one was issued 2 days prior to our departure from Phoenix. "That trust fund is mine once I'm 18. Molly is completely unaware of its existence. Additionally, she won't be able to claim her portion if she flees to Dubai. The issue is resolved." I felt like I had been hit in the gut when Collie read those messages to me. Spencer was cunning in addition to being vicious. He had perceived me as a barrier to money that I was unaware of. And if he could accomplish it, he made the decision to permanently remove me from the picture. If Collie hadn't discovered me, what would have happened to me? If I had remained stranded in that airport, I would have been a forgotten adolescent American with no way home and no documentation. I didn't want to consider it. I was able to comprehend what Spencer had been guarding thanks to M. Patterson. My father had established a trust fund for both of his children before to his passing 8 years ago. Spencer and I split the $400,000 total evenly. When Spencer reached 18, he would be able to access his half, $200,000. That was 3 months away. The structure of my half, $200,000 was different. Up to the age of 25, Dad had linked it to educational costs. It would cover college, graduate school, and whatever training programs I want, but I couldn't touch the principal. It was secured and kept out of reach by being locked away. For months, Spencer had been attempting to persuade my mother to combine the money. According to the texts, he claimed that I was challenging, careless, and would squander the money on pointless artwork. He wanted my mother to ask the court to give him control over my share. It would be much simpler to persuade a judge that I couldn't be trusted with my own inheritance if I fled to Dubai and produced an international controversy that made me appear unstable and unsettled. My brother nearly succeeded in stealing my future. Khaled took a seat across from me during a quiet period in between phone calls. My mother drank bitter tea, but Aisha had brought delicious, aromatic tea. And for a time we sat silently. Eventually Khaled added, "I have seen family greed before. Money exposes a person's actual nature in my line of work, in my nation, and everywhere else. It doesn't alter them, just demonstrates who they have always been." I looked into my tea and nodded. He went on, "But I have also seen something else. Your father had a deep affection for you." I raised my head. "How are you aware of that?" "Because he created a protective inheritance structure for you. He ensured that no one could steal it from you. Nobody, not even your mother or your brother." Khaled has soft eyes. He anticipated something. Maybe he couldn't identify it, but he sensed it. Additionally, he made every effort to shield his daughter from the hereafter. My throat constricted. My father came to mind. For the first time in years, I truly thought about him without shedding tears of sorrow. I used to be referred to as his secret jewel. I had always assumed that was just a cutesy nickname that dads give their daughters. However, I now got it. Hidden from Spencer, from my mother's partiality, and from the familial dynamic that my father could see developing even at the age of 6. He was aware. He had known all along. "Your dad had faith in you. Now you must believe in yourself," said Khalid. Sitting there in that office thousands of miles away from home, I made the decision to try even though I had no idea if I could. The wall-mounted screen flared to life. A live broadcast from the airport in Bangkok. Harsh fluorescent lights and an arrivals gate. Waiting our uniformed officials. Standing next them was an American woman wearing a dark suit and holding a tablet. The diplomatic representative must be that person. A coworker looked at his watch. "The aircraft has touched down. In 4 minutes, passengers will start to disembark." I could feel my heart hammering in my throat. 4 minutes. My mother would discover in 4 minutes that her golden son was composed of something far less valuable than gold. Leaning forward, I studied the TV, hoping for 2 familiar faces to appear. The first travelers were worn out and disheveled after the lengthy flight as they entered the gate. Then I noticed an old couple strolling gently hand in hand, families gathering youngsters, and business travelers examining their phones. My mother was the first to come out, adjusting her carry-on luggage and surveying the terminal with the somewhat confused expression of someone who has just traveled through several time zones. Her clothing were wrinkle-free and her hair was tidy. She appeared to be a vacationing woman who was eager to have fun. Laughing at something on his phone, Spencer trailed closely after her, genuinely chuckling. He didn't give a damn about the sister he had left behind at a foreign airport 12 hours prior. They appeared so at ease and normal, as if they had done nothing wrong at all. The U.S. Embassy representative and 2 Thai police officers quietly approached them. I saw the change in my mother's expression. Confusion came first, followed by worry and then actual dread. First to speak was the woman from the embassy. On the television feed, I could see the impact of the words even though I couldn't hear them. Patricia Underwood was informed by her that her daughter had been discovered abandoned at Dubai International Airport, that authorities had been notified, and that this was now an official international incident. Defense was my mother's initial reaction. Her mouth was moving quickly as I could see. I understood what she was saying even in the absence of sound. There must be an error. She desired to remain. She was throwing a fit. She expressed her desire to be left on her own. Standing next to her, Spencer nodded in agreement, seeming like an older brother who was worried and encouraging. She has always had a theatrical personality. She most likely done this to get attention. You are aware of her personality. The Thai cop pulled out a tablet and hit the play button. I observed my mum watching the surveillance footage. As I left, I trusted her son and saw him unzip my rucksack. With that tiny, purposeful smile, I watched her as he took my passport. He tucked it into his own bag as if it were nothing, and I watched her. Her face went from being flushed pink to being pale to being absolutely white. Spencer made an attempt to talk. He was making gestures and moving his mouth quickly, most likely to say that it was a joke or a practical joke. Later on he planned to fix it. He had made the same justifications his entire life. The cop swiped to the following screen. Brittany received texts from Spencer. The remarks written by her son were read by my mother. I didn't need to view the screen from the video feed, but I couldn't. I was already aware of what was present. I can persuade my mother about the money after Molly is out of the picture. I own that trust fund. She is completely unaware of its existence. Patricia Underwood reached for her lips. It was as if someone had severed her cords, and her entire body crumpled. At last Spencer's mask dropped. All my life, I had witnessed my brother use charm to get out of trouble. Our mother, neighbors, instructors, and coaches. His confidence, his grin, and his simple justifications won over everyone. He has never encountered a situation that he was unable to resolve through dialogue. However, you can't use charm to avoid proof. A security camera cannot be made to stop recording by smiling at it. Text messages written in your own words cannot be explained away. In roughly 30 seconds, Spencer's expression changed from one of confidence to confusion to fear. His hands began to shake, and his shoulders hunched. The officers were already on each side of him when he attempted to move away, as if he could physically leave the area. I had hoped that seeing this victory would give me a sense of fulfillment. Rather, I simply felt worn out, depressed, and grateful that it was finally over. I was looking at my mother's face on a video call when the embassy representative put up a tablet. I was visible to her. She was visible to me. She appeared devastated. Her cheeks were covered in mascara, puffy and red eyes. She seemed older than I had ever seen her. Molly. Her voice broke. I'm very sorry, baby. Had no idea. I was informed by Spencer. You wanted, he said. I assumed you hadn't checked. I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I wasn't asked. You didn't come ask me what had happened when you found me in the lavatory. You simply trusted him. Am aware. And I really apologize. You trust him every time. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't in tears. I was merely presenting the facts. You've always trusted him. You've picked him over me my entire life. Each and every time. She wept even more. Behind her, Spencer gazed at the ground. My father would never have abandoned me. Silently I said. He was aware. He was always aware of Spencer's identity. He knew you wouldn't, which is why he safeguarded my inheritance. My mum recoiled as if I had given her a slap. There was more I could have said. I could have enumerated all of my complaints and the times she had let me down. She was never there when I needed her. What was the point, though? She was aware. She had known all along. She had simply decided deep down not to notice it. I'm done, I declared. I've had enough of being invisible. I'm done being the irrelevant person. The iPad was gently returned by the embassy representative. The call came to an end. I sat for a long time in silence. Aisha touched my shoulder. Khaled remained silent and sat close by, a constant presence. Over the course of the following hour, the legal ramifications were made public. Spencer would be taken into custody and escorted back to the United States. His proof was stored on his phone. Arizona juvenile officials would examine his case for theft and child endangerment. At 17, he was both mature enough to deal with severe repercussions and, most likely, young enough that it wouldn't ruin his future. My mother might also be charged, but since she was unaware of Spencer's entire scheme and I was prepared to assist the police, she would probably only be given a formal warning and required family counseling rather than being prosecuted. A guardian appointed by the court would examine the trust fund status. My inheritance was secure. More than secure. It was now safeguarded by legal paperwork that would prevent anyone from touching it. Additionally, Spencer had made his athletic future his top priority. A starting quarterback with a Division I football scholarship aspires to be a professional. A spotless record was necessary for such scholarship. He would be followed by this incident, which would be recorded, looked into, and coordinated internationally. The record would still be there even if the charges were subsequently withdrawn or reduced. Coaches would pose inquiries. Answers would be found through background checks. His money, his future, his standing, and everything he had been attempting to save by getting rid of me were all in jeopardy. With his own words, his own deeds, and his own conceited belief that he would never be discovered, he had done it to himself. As it happens, karma has perfect timing. I ought to have gotten some popcorn. Khaled made arrangements for my return home before I left the office. As is customary for American minors who become stuck, the U.S. Embassy issued emergency travel credentials, allowing me to travel without my pilfered passport. I was upgraded to first class by Emirates. I would be escorted the whole time by airline employees. I was given Khaled's business card. Elegant, cream-colored, and traditional. "Call this number if you need anything at all," he continued. "I'll always get it." "Why?" I inquired. "Why did you assist me?" "It wasn't necessary. You made me think of my daughter Fatima," so for a bit he was silent. "She was quiet and kind just like you. Like you overlooked." He hesitated. "You needed aid, and she would have wanted me to provide it." I gave him a hug. Most likely it wasn't acceptable. I didn't really know him. Hours before we had met. We were from quite different worlds. However, he felt more like family to me at that very moment than anyone I was related to by blood. "You don't realize how strong you are." "Your father was correct," Khaled remarked. "You are a hidden treasure, but you won't be around for very long." 18 hours of bizarre luxury were spent on the first-class aircraft from Dubai to Phoenix. Gourmet food served on real dishes, warm towels, and a seat that doubled as a bed with real linens. After the airline informed the flight attendants of my predicament, they treated me like royalty. This is the most expensive thing that's ever happened to me, I kept thinking. And I paid no attention to a single fragrance. There's undoubtedly a lesson to be learnt about how sometimes the worst situations can result in unanticipated blessings. To be honest, though, I was too exhausted to think about philosophy. I just watched 3 films, had my delicious salmon dinner and fell asleep soundly. My grandmother, Nora, was at arrivals when I arrived in Phoenix. She appeared older than I had recalled. Her hug was exactly the same even though I hadn't seen her in nearly a year. Warm and potent, with a scent of old books and lavender. "I've got you," she declared. "My dear, you're safe now. I've got you." Instead of taking me back to my mother's house in Phoenix, she took me to her home in Tucson. That was intentional. Grandma Nora recognized that I wasn't ready to confront my mother just yet. Immediately following the incident, my mother had returned from Thailand. Before her vacation even began, it was done. She had to deal with counseling sessions, court appearances, and the devastation of a family that her deliberate blindness had contributed to. Spencer was going through Phoenix's juvenile justice system. It would take some time for him to return home. Furthermore, he would not move in with me when he returned home. I didn't have to live in my brother's shadow for the first time in 17 years. I felt lightheaded from the intense relief. My mother visited me in Tucson a week after I returned. She appeared to have aged 10 years. Hollow eyes, shaking hands, clothes that didn't quite fit right. The well-groomed hospital administrator had vanished. She was replaced with a woman who had been made to confront the reality of her family. She didn't offer any justifications. She made no attempt to downplay Spencer's conduct or offer an explanation for what had occurred. "I failed you," she murmured as she sat across from me at Grandma Nora's kitchen table. "If you don't mind, I would like to attempt fixing it even though I have no idea how." I stared at her for a while. This woman, who had put my brother ahead of me for as long as I could remember, who had blindly trusted his lies, who had boarded an airplane and left me stranded abroad, but also who had worked double shifts to provide a roof over our heads, who had lost her husband at a young age and tried her hardest to keep her family together, who was flawed and broken, and who was finally willing to admit it. "Sincerely, I don't know if I can forgive you," I said. "Not just yet." With tears running down her cheeks, she nodded. "Maybe not ever. I'm willing to try though," so I went on. "If you truly put in the effort, seek treatment, be honest, and make a genuine change rather than merely apologizing and hoping that things will return to normal." "I will," she muttered. "I swear. Yes, I will." It was a beginning, but it wasn't forgiveness. Spencer's destiny was less complicated. Community service hours that would take years to complete, probation until the age of 21, required counseling for manipulative behavior, and a permanent mark on his record that barred him from his Division I scholarship. In the end, he lived with Grandma Nora as well, apart from me, in the guest room across the house. He needed somewhere to go because our mother could no longer look at him in the same way. Years later, when I last heard from him, he was employed as a mechanic's helper at a Tucson car shop. Sincere and modest work. A far cry from his aspirations as a quarterback, but perhaps just what he needed. His failure doesn't satisfy me. I don't feel victorious. I'm just quietly relieved that he can no longer harm me. Grandma Nora sat me down with a box of my father's documents 2 weeks after I returned from Dubai. "I've been keeping these for you," she remarked. "Waited for the right moment till you were old enough." I discovered everything inside. The legal documents, bank statements, trust fund documentation, and, at the bottom, a note written by my father and dated 1 week before to his passing. It was written to me by him. Even then, he was aware that there was a problem in our household. He had witnessed Spencer's actions, including his harshness, manipulation, and treatment of me when no grown-ups were around. He felt something, but he couldn't pinpoint it. In order to secure my fortune, Dad locked it away until I was 25 and completely self-sufficient. Dad added a second life insurance policy specifically for me. Not out of favoritism, Dad wrote, but because he knew our mother would look after Spencer. It was me who required protection. I will never forget the lines at the end of the letter. "My secret treasure, Molly. In this family, you will encounter storms, but you are designed to withstand them. Remember that your father loved you more than words can express. Be strong and patient. Have faith in you. Dad, I will always love you." When I eventually retrieved my inheritance at age 25, it was $600,000. $200 from the original trust fund and $400 from the life insurance. Enough to drastically alter my life. I made good use of it. Because sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. I started my import-export company specializing in Middle Eastern artisan goods. Transformed it into something genuine, prosperous, and wholly original. I continued to communicate with Khaled. He stood in the back row, wiping his eyes at my college graduation. I send him flowers on the anniversary of the Dubai event each year. He sends me books about philosophy, business, and overcoming adversity. With clear limits, frequent treatment, and open discussions that occasionally caused pain but were always beneficial, my relationship with my mother gradually and painstakingly recovered. We're not the best of friends. We're genuine with each other now, which is more than we've ever had before, but we probably never will be. I really appreciate you viewing. You've already seen some of my most captivating tales. Don't miss the finest part by clicking one right now. You'll adore it. I'll see you at the next stall.